Charter for us gives us the credibility that we are recognised as an institution that has the right standards, the right processes and approach for evaluating knowledge, skills and experience in the profession, and then accrediting people against that knowledge, skills and experience so that employers have a good view on who they're employing and the individuals themselves have a good view of what their responsibilities and their requirements are. What we're doing and what we have been doing since we were founded is raising the standards in terms of expectations of what people in the profession actually do. And we're setting a very high bar, and the Royal Charter gives us the opportunity to really reinforce that high bar. So how that benefits employers of such individuals is that they will know that they've got people that are at the top of the game. Challenges around finding the right people that are trained, but also getting people on the runway, if you like, to be trained. How do you get those two things lined up? And then if you're starting to talk about talent, what are you talking about? And the definition of what cybersecurity actually is, what the shape of it is 3-4 years ago was a real challenge. Nobody had actually defined it other than us in our skills framework. So we had a bit of a head start over in these discussions and the way the discussions have evolved. So the government has driven an initiative called the CyBOK initiative, which is a cyber common body of knowledge, which starts to define the difference between a dentist and a general practitioner, to use an example, or a dentist, a nurse and a general practitioner. And then if you think of all of the, if you add surgeons to that, then you've got not one sort of surgeon, you've got lots of different types of surgeons, brain surgeon, bone surgeon and so on. And so how do you start to professionalise that, to delineate who does what, and to identify the types of skills that an individual needs to perform a certain role, or from an employer's perspective, the type of person they need to fill that role. And they're still all, some of those questions have been, or those question marks have been resolved, but others still haven't. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, and others are as well, we're trying to get together with some of the other bodies that would be look after the nursing side of medicine or the dentistry side or whatever, or their hemoglobin specialists or their orthopaedic surgeons. We're trying to get a consortium of individual organisations so we can all work together, having defined what we do and what we are good at and what they do in their own individual specialisms. And so if you take the other, just to give you two examples, the other bodies, one is the BCS, the British Computer Society, which they're interested in cybersecurity, or their recent interest in cybersecurity is purely from an IT perspective. Whereas the IET, the Institute of Engineering and Technology, they're interested in it from an engineering-led perspective. We're interested in it from a managerial perspective, an architectural perspective, a leadership perspective. And that's where many of our members are, and why we're considered, our skills framework is often used, for example, in the whole career pathway in some of the big corporates. We're trying to finalise the decisions around boundaries, around how things are done, common standards, common frameworks, ethics, and so on. That's what makes professionalism. Individuals won't see much change. they will see much better clarity about where their career path is, particularly if they're quite early on in their career path. Better definition about what their opportunities are going to be in the longer term. But I think the real benefits are rather more subtle than the obvious stuff. For example, real benefit at the moment, somebody that's a cybersecurity expert in a bank actually has significant responsibility if things go wrong, and responsibility that has teeth in that the regulators can theoretically take them to court for being a responsible officer, which is ahead of the profession, because until you've got professional standards in place that people have to adhere to, and you've got ethical boundaries about what people should and should not do, you can hardly blame somebody that's innocently been grown into a role and that's suddenly been labelled as regulatory role. You can hardly blame them for worrying, for saying, well, wasn't me. Sort of, I don't accept responsibility either. So it will help the professionals in that they are recognised for meeting a set of standards. It will give them that clarity about what their responsibilities are should things go well or not so well. And that will transform the profession. It will transform it from being an occupation of people with real interest into something that is really meaningful, as is civil engineering, medicine, and so on.